What in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s,
Think about the 20s.
the 20s, baby.
Plenty. What in the 20s is
I
going
am here for
on?
my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zama Mkhize, and this is What's in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through its baby. On this episode, we're going to be speaking about shooting your shot. I think that there are a lot of experiences in my life that I would have missed out on if I wasn't brave enough to just go for it, right? And I think that is the case for a lot of us, right? Shooting our shot feels so diabolical, so insane. And I think the reason, first and foremost, is because of rejection, right? Our fear of rejection gets in the way of everything, gets in the way of so much. This idea that if I approach this person, if I approach this job, if I approach this opportunity, if I just, do that, if I were to hear the words no, if I were to be received differently from my intentions and all of that, what is going on? How do I deal with that? How do I, circumvent that? I feel like rejection is so nasty. It's so brutal and it's so unforgiving, honestly. And I know that I am very nervous. I'm very nervous to approach people, even if I admire them, even if I want to just say I respect what you do or whatever it is, I have to really muster up so much, and it takes me a while, so much bravery. If I see someone that I recognize, that I really just admire and adore their work and all that kind of stuff, I can't just walk up to them and be like, hi, this, and that. I have to have a pep talk with myself. I have to consult with the people I'm with. We have to go to the bathroom a couple of times. So much needs to happen before I actually just be like, okay, cool. Let's go, because taking that shot feels it's so exposing. You're so vulnerable and all the rest just coming out there. And I think that when you hate rejection, I hate rejection. I hate this feeling of not being good enough, or not being wanted or not being accepted, not being approved. And I think that's the case for all of us, right? Who actually likes it, right? Who actually enjoys the whole concept of not being able to have access, not being able to be like, oh, it worked out. And I think the reason I struggle or get so sensitive or so shy or so scared to even just walk up to someone is because, it's not because of my own type of pride or whatever, but it's more of I have no idea how they're going to receive me. I have no idea how they're going to accept me and all of that. And that's what makes it even scarier, and I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to bring the wrong vibes. I have no idea how this interaction is going to go, right? And it's that feeling of a loss of control and over the situation, because you have no idea how it's going to turn out. You just have to muster up the strength enough to be okay, I'm going to do it anyways. And the problem with rejection, I think that it can mess with our self-esteem, depending on how it goes, depending on how they receive you, depending on if you get approved, appointed, all that kind of stuff, is that if it doesn't go your way, it starts messing with how you see yourself. You start thinking oh, am I not pretty enough, attractive enough? Am I not smart enough? Am I not qualified enough? Am I not good enough? All of these things start to circulate in your mind. You start pondering, you start thinking oh my gosh, does this mean that I'm not worthy of this, of my desires, of this thing that I want? And it can really mess with your confidence, mess with just what you thought. I mean, the fact that you even mustered up the strength and the courage and the bravery and all of that to pursue this thing is because you had faith, right? You probably thought, oh, I could do this. Oh, this might go well. You had that intention that I think I stand a good chance at this, right? That's why we shoot our shots and stuff like that. We feel okay, I have the ability to get it in the hoop, right? And so when it doesn't land, doesn't land the way that you intended, the way that you wanted, it's really difficult to not take that personally. It's really difficult to not see that as a reflection of you. It's really difficult to not internalize that and see that as evidence of where you are, of how other people perceive you, of what, your capabilities and your qualities and stuff like that is, And I think that's going to lead me into my next point about be the fool. Be willing to be the fool. And by that, I mean, because the whole concept and the whole, approach of shooting your shot means exposing yourself, right? Making yourself vulnerable, making yourself seen, making yourself known and all of that kind of stuff. You have to be willing to be embarrassed, be willing to be ashamed, not ashamed. And I'm saying it in this context, right? I'm not saying that things like rejection and stuff should shame you, I'm just saying in a sense of you need to be willing to risk it, you need to be willing to go, you know what, I'm actually willing to to go out there and do it. Because the thing is like when you say, for example, even just approaching someone, maybe in the romantic sense, right? You make yourself know that like, oh, I like you. You make your intentions known, your feelings known, your thoughts known that you like this person. And that's what I mean by just make yourself the fool. You got to be able to be willing to put yourself in that position of, when you have your cards too close to your chest, people can't see, right? They can't see what it is that you want, what it is that you desire, what it is that you're actually trying to work towards and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think in your mind, you feel like in this way, I can protect myself and not be the fool, not be the one that's embarrassed and ashamed and all of that kind of stuff, right? But when we actually pursue something, when we actually shoot a shot, we're letting someone know what it is that we want. We're letting a company know we want this position. We want a promotion and all of that kind of stuff. We're letting just anyone around or whatever just be privy to the things that are on our hearts. And that's why it feels so insane. When you just start posting consistently and stuff online because you want to be a content creator and you're sitting with like 20 followers, you're making it known that this is something you want, and it feels like I'm a fool, right? That's how we feel doing it. Like, oh, why am I doing this when I only have this many views, this many people paying attention to what I'm doing, right? And that's the whole point of shooting that shot. How are you going to know how good you can be? How great you can become, how much you can grow, the things that you can achieve if you're not willing to be the fool in the beginning. If you're not willing to be the person people are looking at like, oh, like this is what you're doing. Oh, this is what you want. Oh, you want this appointment. Oh, it's like if you're not willing, because I think we keep trying to push this like agenda of like, only shoot if you're gonna win, only shoot if you're gonna score type of thing. We want people to feel like you need to have that confidence that like we need to get it in all the time. And I actually want to speak to the opposite. When you're not sure, when you actually have no idea where it's gonna land, I would argue that it is even more imperative for you to shoot that shot. I think it's too easy and doesn't challenge you enough if you're only shooting in hoops that you will score. And I would even argue more that you do that because you're still staying in your comfort zone. There's no room for you to grow, no room for you to improve, no room for you to be better, to challenge yourself, to actually accomplish more things, because you're constantly shooting in spaces that make you feel safe enough, right? And I think that when you do that consistently, over time, you're going to find that you actually plateau. You actually stay here, you actually become stuck, you actually become, monogamous, monotone, in the way that you kind of progress in life. But shooting in instances where you are actually, that feeling of like, I'm nervous, shooting in spaces where you have no idea what the outcome could be, where it feels like 50-50, even in moments where it feels like 60-40 and the odds are not in your favor. Because the truth is, you don't know. You don't know how it's going to end up. You don't know where it's going to land. You don't. And I think that it should scare you, but excite you more, you know? The reason why, is because how are you ever going to get to that goal? You know? How are you ever going to surprise yourself? How are you ever going to surpass your own potential? How are you ever going to outgrow where you're at? And I always say that sometimes just saying you want something is merely just a desire, right? Saying, oh, I want this thing to happen for me. Oh, I want this person to like me. Oh, I want to pursue this job. I want to this, whatever, I want this position. I want this life. I want this vacation. It's merely just a desire, the fact that you want it. And a lot of us sadly stop there, the fact that we merely think about it, ponder on it, say it out loud that this is what we want. This is my deepest desire. This is, we stop there and think that's doing the whole thing. But it's not even doing half of it. Actually shooting the shot, actually going after it, sitting for it, pursuing the thing, that's courage. That's actually mustering bravery, strength, and all of that to achieve something. And that is when the real work, in my opinion, begins. Because now we can actually figure out what's going on here. We can figure out where we are in relation to the things that we want. We can figure out our positioning and all of that. But just desiring it is, so many of us desire so many of us actually want the same things, if we're being honest, right? We want to live comfortably. We want to be loved. We want to be seen. We want to have friends, but just saying that, how are you going to do that if you're not actually setting out to build those communities? If you're not setting out to be a better partner, if you're not setting out to work harder, to form disciplines and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that sometimes we get so stuck on thinking but then what if it just doesn't work out for me? That it holds us back from making that next step to pursue, making that next step to actually go for it. And I think that's why we need to sacrifice our ego. That's why we need to actually tell ourselves that our pride needs to come down, right? That whatever it is that we use to protect ourselves, whatever it is, we need to put it to the side a bit because ironically, our ego sometimes is the thing that's really holding us back from developing and growing and learning and experiencing. I think that if we let our ego make a lot of decisions for us, we'd realize how held back we actually really are. If we're willing to sacrifice our ego, surrender it, let me use that word actually, surrender your ego to the pursuits of your desires, right? You'd realize that it's not that scary making yourself the fool for a while. It's not that, you'd even realize that it's not embarrassing to make your intentions known. In fact, people can now see what it is you're trying to do and can now consider you for those positions. How is somebody going to want to date you if they don't even know if you like them? How are you going to be considered for a job position if they don't even know that you're actually looking out for that position? How are you, how are things going to happen for you if people don't even know you want it? And that's what I'm saying. If you surrender that ego, surrender that pride, you're going to find that a lot more doors begin to open because you're not moving with this mindset of oh, I gotta guard myself. Oh, I don't want to be heartbroken. I don't want to be let down. I don't want rejection and stuff like that. But you start actually making things known, so that it can put you in line and alignment to get it, to receive it. It can put you on par type of a situation. And I think that we need to prepare for, let me start like this. Let's first prepare for if things don't go your way, right? If that happens, what do? We must be willing to learn. We must be willing to evaluate, look back at everything that happened and kind of inspect what went wrong, what can I do differently? What should I do more of, right? I think being in a position where you're able to critically understand and evaluate what's happened in this process is so important, because I truly believe you only fail when you stop. Right? You only fail at this pursuit. You only fail at this desire. You only fail at this job if you stop trying, And also context. I don't mean in a sense of you shoot your shot with somebody and they reject you. And I don't mean that is a sign for you to do it again, like to try again. If they clearly are displaying a boundary, right? That they're not interested, that this is not going to work out for them or whatever it is, we need to be able to respect that too, right? Being able to respect outcomes is important if things don't go the way that you want, right? But in other, situations, when it comes to our dreams, our goals, our ambitions, our careers, improvement and all of that kind of stuff, we cannot stop, right? We can adjust. That is the whole point. What I mean, like, we need to prepare. We need to prepare to teach ourselves how to pivot, how to adjust, how to redirect and all the rest. When we shoot your shot, because maybe it's just that you weren't aiming right. Maybe you weren't standing in the right position. Maybe you're not using the right tools and resources and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that if we're able to, think of things like that, if it doesn't go our way, we're better equipped to bounce back. We're better equipped to self-regulate. Now, on the other side of the coin, what if it goes exactly the way you hoped for, right? You shoot your shot and it works out in your favor. How do you prepare for that? I always think in the sense of, like, say you want this job position, right? And you actually get it. What have you done in your life to accommodate you being able to fulfill that duty, right? I think it could be a discipline thing, How have you improved on your discipline? How have you improved on your mindset, the way that you think about things, think through challenges, solve problems, etc., etc. You need to think about ways to sustain you if this goes well. You shoot your shot with someone romantically, they actually say yes. What have you done in preparation to sustain? They're actually like, okay, fine. They give you their time. They give you their energy and all of that. What are you doing, to be a better partner for that relationship? What are you doing to be a better suitor and all of that kind of stuff? You just shot your shot and just thought, okay, if they say yes, then that's fine. That's often, like I'm saying, when you stop is where you fail, because that's why a lot of relationships kind of fall apart. It's like, if all the momentum and the steam that you build up in the beginning, trying to get the ball into the hoop, we don't maintain a practice, we don't maintain consistency and all that kind of stuff, because we made no preparations for if things actually worked in our favor, because we're so used to thinking it won't. We're so used to believing that it just wouldn't happen in that way. And that's what I mean, like, being able to have sustenance, being able to understand how we can survive if things go well is just as well as important as preparing for if it doesn't go well, right? And I truly want you to bet on yourself. Get into the habit of betting on yourself, on believing in yourself, believing that you can aim and shoot and score, right? Because nobody's going to do that for you. I mean, if you can't believe in yourself, if you don't, why do you think that this thing that you're pursuing is going to believe in you, is going to want you, is going to choose you, if you don't even think that you're good enough for this thing, if you don't even think you're worthy enough? I speak about having some sort of crazy delusional faith. I often think that that's what I am and that's what I do, Sorry, I'm laughing because I was having a conversation with my friend about how I will literally have these dreams and these thoughts and stuff of things that I plan on doing, things that I, foresee happening and all of that, things that I'm already just doing because I'm operating as if I'm already... I'm already there, I'm always like 10 steps like ahead because I get so excited. But I think it's like, I always keep trying to think like I need to dial it down a bit. I need to slow down, but it's almost so difficult for me because sometimes I just have crazy delusional faith that, like, well, of course it's going to work out for me. We just can't sometimes sit there like, but how could it not work in my favor? But wait, what? Sometimes you just have to have this like crazy feeling inside of you that burns inside, right? That makes you believe that like, no, of course it's gonna, maybe not now, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, I'll think about the people that I DM, saying like, oh, would you like to come on the podcast and stuff, knowing they have no idea who I am, what I do. But I'll just go into their like messages and stuff and be like, hey, do you want to come here? Do you want to have a chat with me? Do you want to, because I just have faith, that like someone's going to say yes, And I love, so there's this book that I'm reading called The Slight Edge. It is an incredible book. I love it so, so, so much. And they speak about for you to have success, you have to double your rate of failure. And oof. I hear that. Double the chances of you, getting things wrong or whatever it is, getting rejected, whatever it is, for you to keep moving forward, for you to be able to keep learning, for you to be able to adapt, to do better, to improve on your skill and all of that kind of stuff, you need to double your rate of it not going your way. Double your rate of you being rejected. Double your rate of you hearing no, 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 no. You have to just keep shooting over and over. And I've seen how it, is kind of just working in my life, is that like I've stopped letting the no's keep me from my yeses. I think the no's suck. Let me make that incredibly clear. I hate hearing no, but I've stopped dwelling. I've stopped letting it define me. I've stopped letting it consume and control me. Instead, I use it to motivate me, actually. I use it to actually be like, oh, okay, let me do a real let me do my big one, let me try again. Let me show, and I think that's what we should do is like, don't let our nose keep us, right, from where it is we're trying to go, for the things that we're trying to do and trying to achieve and stuff like that. I think just keep shooting. Eventually somebody's gonna have to say yes. Eventually someone's gonna have to approve. Eventually someone's gonna have to see me. Somebody's gonna have to acknowledge me. Eventually I'm gonna keep knocking on that door until somebody opens. And I think that's just that crazy faith that like, I know if I just keep on this pursuit, if I just keep on this thing, I'm willing to be the fool. I'm willing to look desperate. I'm willing to look however it is that everybody's gonna, might say about me or whatever it is, because I know the purpose I'm trying to achieve. Yeah, I know what it is that I'm trying to do. Yeah, and you need to be that, I guess, strong in your understanding of your purpose, in your understanding of your pursuits, your goals, the things that you're trying to achieve. You need to be so sturdy in that, even if things may feel like it's trying to shake your faith in what you're doing or whatever it is, just keep bouncing back. Keep coming back to self-regulation. Keep coming back to self-maintenance. Keep coming back to getting your mind right, because things can rock you. It's fine. It's okay. But we have to realign. We have to come back to center. And yeah, that's what I wanted to speak about today, about shooting your shot. Is, what is that very famous quote that we only miss 100% of the shots that we don't take, And so, yeah, shoot your shot. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s
Yes,
the 20s, baby.
What in the 20s is going on? I am here for my 20s, baby. This is the 20s.